Have you checked your butthole? Skip.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Spodcast. It's another episode and it's been a while, so I do apologise, but news is pretty quiet at the minute in regards to TV movies because it's the off season. However, it's been a really busy week in terms of that, so me and John are back. Let's get John on screen as well. Hey John, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. We've had a busy week, haven't we? Streaming as well.
Oh yeah, been streaming all week as well, playing some Fall Guys and everything like that. But yeah, it's been a great week for news. Thank you for everyone who is joining us. Please, at any point you want to make a comment, please just put it in the chat. We're doing this live now. We used to not do it live in the past, but now we have chat integration, which means you guys can join us live during the chat. I feel bad because my eyes keep wandering to the side because I'm watching the chat and everything as we're doing it as well. But yeah, there's loads to talk about this week. Really excited to talk about some of them. The first one being the Suicide Squad. Me and John both watched it, not together, but just the other day. I think John watched it on Friday. I caught it on Saturday. But yeah, it's a big film. It's a huge deal in terms of DC. We won't discuss plot points like main spoilers, because it literally just opened this weekend in the States. It opened a week ago in the UK, so we won't go into massive spoilers, but we will talk about our opinions, specifics without naming them. So don't worry if you haven't seen it yet, we won't totally ruin the film, but we want to review it, we want to give our opinion, and who knows, it might convince some of you guys to actually watch it. But before we get into the main details, just John, straight away, just what are your first sort of thoughts on the Suicide Squad?
I really enjoyed it. It was a nice change of pace to what we usually get in terms of superhero genre altogether, really. The change of pace and also the bravery, because not many directors will do what James Gunn did with the Suicide Squad right at the beginning of the film. That was pretty brave and pretty yeah, his shock factor was good. I liked it. I think overall it was very well done, and I think anyone who can criticize this film is just looking to criticize it for no particular reason. I think James Gunn added his Guardians of the Galaxy 1 feel to it, and I think that it was the right tone of film to do it with.
Yeah, I'm the same. This is my favourite DC film yet. I absolutely adore it. It's the best way I could describe it is Guardians of the Galaxy for an adult audience. That is probably the best way. It's totally James Gunn's style. It has loads of humour. I know I've been as over the moon with it. I thought it was great. Really enjoyed it. Really funny. A lot gorier than I was expecting. If you don't like blood and guts, this is definitely not a film for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were kind of not expecting that amount of gore, but you know what? It works for the type of film that it is, and yeah, I've really liked it. And I think there's some. And one of the things I kind of want to talk about, and I don't know if you thought about this, but they kind of, and by the way, I'm all for this in this sense, is they actually downplayed Harley Quinn a bit. And I think that was needed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see it as a Harley Quinn film. I know the first Suicide Squad heavily focused on Harley Quinn, but then again, it was her introduction to DC, and it was needed. But they have brought it back and made it more of a group ensemble. What are your thoughts on that, John?
I think that was the best thing because, to be honest with you, I was getting Harley Quinn fatigue because Harley Quinn is everywhere now. And I remember her being the original incarnation back in the early 90s, 1993, I think it was, with the Batman animated series. And she wasn't as over the top as she is now. I think the creation of how Harley Quinn was depicted on this particular film was very dialed down, which was what they needed. Because the problem is with the original Suicide Squad film, there was two leading characters. There was Deadshot and there was Harley Quinn. The rest kind of was here and there every so often, but non-consequential to the film, it almost felt. And I think a Harley Quinn-centric film, it just becomes just like, that's the typical Harley thing. Yes, Harley, we get it, we get that. There was no depth, but in balancing her out in this group, they gave her more depth, I felt, and they gave her more characteristics by just minimalizing the amount that she's on screen. I think it for me personally, the fact that it was nice to see other characters in the limelight and see their characteristics and personalities come forward was such a more enjoyable film with the tone that I wasn't just constantly going, oh, Harley Quinn again, Harley Quinn again. So I think they did the dynamics really well.
And they've definitely toned down her outfits. It wasn't about making her a sex symbol, which I think the first Suicide Squad was doing again. Again, I think it's just a promotion tactic to get certain viewership watching it. Whereas this one, it was more about the character. And could there have been a bit more Harley? Yes. I absolutely adore Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I think she was brilliant. But they did give her an amazing sequence that you see partly in the trailer as well. Let's just say it's when she's in the red dress and escaping. That's in the trailer, I can say that. And they give her a much needed scene in that. But it was definitely more of a group ensemble. What did you think of the addition of some of the other characters? Now, I will say that it starts off with the beach scene. I think it was from the trailer pretty obvious what is going to happen on that beach scene with a number of characters. It's called the Suicide Squad. That's all I'm saying. Some of them don't survive. I will say that a character that you'd expect to survive doesn't, even though I predicted that he would, just from all the promotional materials. I think it was obvious that he wasn't going to be in it much. But I thought that opening sequence really gave you an idea of what to expect from the film, but also I think it gave a really good impression of Waller and what she is willing to do in order to pass a mission, in the fact that she sent Rick and Harley and Boomerang out at the very start, and again, minor spoiler, but not a big deal, but sent them out on pretty much a no-win mission, knowing they probably wouldn't win. But I think that really set the tone, the gore, the comedy, and I thought that was excellent. I like that. It really sets the tone of the film to make you think, you know what? You've got all of these big actors coming in, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess I feel like the beginning scene was an absolute brave scene because it showed characteristic of Amanda Waller, and I love Amanda Waller. I used to love what her character in the Justice League Unlimited series that was in the cartoons. That sort of like was a very dialed down for kids thing, but it still showed her cold, ruthless nature, and I just love how she is. I kind of hope we'll see Amanda Waller sort of butt heads with either Cadmus or Argus or whoever the organization is named as, that she's got it as, with the Justice League, because that'd be a good interaction. But I think she's the perfect actress for it, and damn is she cold in this, and I love it.
Yeah, and you need that character to have that coldness, to really make you think, who is actually the good guys in this? There are no good guys in the Suicide Squad. They just operate in the grey. Some of the new additions I think were brilliant. I think Idris Elba is amazing. Ratcatcher 2 really brought some heart to it. The chemistry, like the father-daughter chemistry between Idris's Bloodsport and Ratcatcher was really nice. And I think that was kind of the heart of the movie. There's some chemistry between Rick and Harley, which I think is really nice. They've got a bond, a friendship from the first film. Even though they say this is a standalone from it, the history between Harley and Rick is still there, which is great.
I did read that James Gunn actually spoke to David Ayer about the Suicide Squad, and he coordinated that. I think that's why there was a sort of like a nod and an indication that it might be linked to it, it might not be linked to it, but we're going to honour it to a degree, which I think is good, because there's no point pretending something doesn't exist no matter how much you dislike it. But if you can use it and turn it into something good and positive, which is what James Gunn has done, I think that will create a more better justice for that than...
It's definitely not a sequel, and you don't need to have seen the first film, but there are references, kind of nods to it as well. But you don't have to have seen any DC films in a sense. This is a standalone project, but unlike all of the other standalone DC films, I think this one worked. You didn't need to know a lot about all of the previous characters. You didn't need to know all of their backstories. It was just you knew what you got from these characters from the get-go. Come on, they had Polka Dot Man. Like, I'd never heard of this character before until this film, but there was enough in there for you to actually understand this character, like this character, and enjoy the character as well.
And if you like to see your Karens get their comeuppance, this film has the perfect joke about it.
Now, I do love the fact that, and Nutty's just brought it up in the chat here, Gun Brothers are good for that. I say brothers because Sean will normally appear in some form in something James directs. Well, believe it or not, Sean Gunn actually appears in this film twice, which is interesting. He is the CGI embodiment of Weasel, but he also appears as his human form as a prisoner you see early on as well, which was quite funny to see that when actually he appears in a scene with himself. Which is quite interesting. And I won't spoil it, but there is a sneaky cameo from someone in Guardians of the Galaxy in a blink and you'll miss it scene. Now, I actually picked up on it because I was watching the film looking for a Guardians reference, and I picked up on it. John, did you pick up on the sneaky Guardians reference?
I did, yeah. To be honest with you, there was quite a few cameos in this film from various, a few Marvel films, should we say it? But yes, I did catch up on that one as well. I obviously we're not going to say it because we don't want to spoil too much. But yeah,
all I'm going to say is
nicely placed.
Look for an insect. That's my hint. Without giving too much away, look for an insect. I also noticed that there was a lot of bird references. Were those canaries? Were they canary birds that kept appearing? I feel like they were referenced to canaries. Yeah.
But I think maybe I'm reading into it too much. But yeah, I think it was a canary bird. Might be wrong.
Now, what about, we've got to talk about, because this is going to be important in the future of DC as well, is we need to talk about John Cena. Now, I watched the film and I didn't see him once, which really confused me.
There was a confusing part with just some floating tighty ways as well. Just nothing else, just some
Yeah,
tighty
it was
ways.
really weird. Now, for anyone that doesn't get that, John Cena was a wrestler and his catchphrase was, "You can't see me." But no, John Cena and Idris Elba have probably the best dynamic on screen, and I can't wait to maybe see more of that in the future. In the TV show, whether the TV show is going to be a flashback or anything like that, we don't know yet. But it'd be interesting to see the John Cena TV show, and I think John Cena was born to play this role. He is just absolutely brilliant in it, and you can tell he's enjoyed it because he went to all the premieres, all of the press things, dressed as the character, which was brilliant. But what were your thoughts on John Cena and the TV show that's being developed?
I just got to say, I really love that first action scene with John Cena and Idris Elba. That perfect chemistry there, just the competitive nature. Oh, it was enjoyable. It was comedic, the right level of comedic as well. So, but I've got to be honest with you, Idris Elba and John Cena, they pretty much stole the show for most of it for me. Whether it be together or solo, they were just the right amount of central sort of arrogance and sort of dark humor at times, but mostly just light-hearted humor in slapstick form. But I really like John Cena. I think he did really well, and I'm excited to see his TV show. However, from what I've read, it's not going to steer in the same particular direction as we've seen him on, obviously on screen here. I think he's going to take a darker tone, a more serious tone, but we'll see what happens. He seems to have adopted the character pretty well. When someone embraces the character like he has, it generally means a positive thing.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a talent. He's not going to win any Oscars, don't get me wrong, but he plays the role to perfection because I think that's a lot of his personality. I'm not saying that he's a murderer and goes around doing that, but like the humour side, the joking around, the competitiveness, that is totally John Cena, and it is great to see on screen, and I can't wait to see what they do. Before we talk about a little bit more DC, I just want us to kind of finish off on recommendations. Do you recommend people to go see this film? Is it worth spending that cash? Is it worth going back to the cinema and seeing this film? Because there's a lot of stick for DC films, and a lot of people don't trust DC films, and they kind of hold back, waiting to see how more people think when they've seen it. But what do you think about this overall? Is it worth going to see?
For me personally, yes. I really enjoyed it. It was looking from a perspective outside inwards, because I have this theory. We'll go into another day, of course, into our own separate podcast. But like, there's a stigma around DC that there's the feeling that you can't trust it. That the only comic book film you can actually watch is a Marvel comic book film. This kind of releases a stigma because they're using a Marvel director, and they're taking the DC sort of route elsewhere. They're trying something new. James Gunn has tried something new, and I think successfully works. So I think whatever's happened before, forget about it. Come in with this fresh perspective. There's no capes and tights. Well, there's no capes at least anyway. Just go in, watch it, and enjoy it. I think it's money worth spent, and especially coming out of a pandemic. I think if you're going to go to cinema, I think this is a great opening one to go watch.
Oh, yeah, I kind of agree with those sentiments. I think it's a welcome to return to cinema, especially if you're superhero fans and everything like that. It's definitely not for young kids. Please don't try and sneak in young kids. It is not a superhero film in that sense. It's just a kind of mindless, funny, bit gory action film with anti-heroes that is just absolutely entertaining. Now, to kind of finish off just for the next few minutes, one of the things for me that I want to discuss with John, I know John's eager to talk about this as well, is talking about, is this the turnaround for the DC universe in films, because we have a number of films coming up as well, which we'll briefly talk about in a second. But this could be the turning point now for DC to go, you know what, this has worked. What do we kind of do as next steps? So, John, I know you want to talk about the current Flash film as well and what they're kind of going for now.
I think for me, it's like looking at the set photos and what I can sort of gather and take away from the information being released is whatever's come before, they're making a nod to it. But I think what they're gonna ultimately do is they're gonna close that door now. Whether or not the Suicide Squad's going to be the new part of this new continuity that's going to come about, that's another thing entirely. But I get the sense that they're trying to move in a direction that both appeases the fans and also gives them something new to sort of give them a bit of hope. I'm still sort of the diehard Snyder should have finished his story. You know, very much like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. Boom, it's done. Story over. Someone else can write a story. However, DC have had to recognise the controversy surrounding that. That could be something separate later on down the line. Who knows? But they need to still create this universe, and I think the Flash is teasing, bringing back the fans as well, because, as we know, confirmed. Can I confirm some of the actors?
Yeah, go for it.
Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman, as we know, as an alternative universe Batman, which Michael Keaton is probably one of the most favoured, if not the most favoured, Batman of all time. He cemented sort of comic book movies from 1989, has paid the success because of that. They took a huge gamble. He was a great Batman, and because of that, he's loved by the fans. So they're bringing him back as well, sort of an alternate reality Batman there. There's supposed to be different actors in there as well. Henry Cavill's rumored to be in there, so his Superman's being acknowledged. So there's a chance for a reboot, because DC has this thing called Flashpoint, and not just once. Barry has done it several times. So Barry Allen has the ability to adapt the universe around him. So in doing this, we could probably, DC and Warner Bros., if they play their cards right, could learn from their previous mistakes and create a complete new world, while also giving the audience an understanding that did exist, but this exists now. And I think that's because multiverse is becoming a very prominent thing that everybody's understanding, and the CW shows have done it before. I'm very excited to see what they do. I just hope and pray the Warner Brothers executives don't get involved too much, because things I've read and seen and heard, it never does well for the actual the end product there. I think they need to take a leaf out of like Kevin Feige's route, which is have a structured plan in place, keep the executives out, and just keep the structure there. But yeah, I'm trying not to talk too much about it, to be honest.
Yeah, we've got to be very careful. I think we can also talk about the fact that we will see the first version of Supergirl in the films as well. I'm really excited. I think the outfit looks amazing. Really, really like how that is looking. I love the fact that the original Batmobile is going to make some sort of appearance as well. The best Batmobile. Very closely, I like the Val Kilmer one just for the lighting on it, but the 1989 Batmobile is probably one of the best. And it's looking like it's going to be a very interesting Flash film. I'm not particularly a big fan of this iteration of the Flash in the movies, but he's never had his own films, so who knows? Maybe that will turn things around slightly.
I must admit that just adding on quickly, that Ezra looks like they're kind of taking more serious after the Snyderverse route. I think they're going to take him more seriously, and the outfit change that's just been released, and Ben Affleck coming back. Oh, so happy.
Yeah, so that kind of finishes that section. We're now going to move on to a bit of Marvel, because we had a trailer released this week, and it's a film that, again, is kind of both loved and hated, which was the original Venom. Its sequel is coming out in September. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Have I said that right? Let There Be Carnage? Yeah, Let There Be Carnage, which introduces Woody Harrelson as Cletus Clay, is that right?
Cletus Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy. I knew it was something like that. But so Carnage will be appearing in this film. It's a character that many, many fans of Spider-Man and Venom know. And the trailer, well, saying that, you can't go by trailers too much because the original Venom trailer looked all right. This looks all right, and I was a big, huge disappointment for me, the original Venom movie. But yeah, this one looks interesting. But it's made by Sony, which always worries me. But what did you think of the trailer, John?
I try and word this one correctly. The first Venom film neither excited me nor disappointed me. It was better than I expected, but could have been a lot better. And it's kind of the opinion of this Venom film. Like Let There Be Carnage. Like, I love Woody Harrelson. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I no doubt feel that Carnage is probably going to steal the show of this. I remember watching Carnage and Venom first appear on the screen when it was during the '94 animated series for Spider-Man, and that they were incredible characters. So no doubt, like, Carnage will be an incredible character to watch, and it'll probably be really intensely idle. I reckon probably gore and ripping apart if they're doing it correctly, because Carnage is not a nice person. But yeah, I get the feeling that, like, it's going to be very flashy. It's going to be entertaining in the action scenes, but it's going to be very much like the first one, like neither great nor terrible, just sort of somewhere in the middle. And I think, yeah, we'll see. I'd like to think that Sony are probably building up something big that's going to include the Spider-Verse potentially, but who knows? It all depends what's happening. But for me personally, I'm just taking it as I see it as a product there, not reading into too much, and it'll probably just be just above bang average film for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same. I'm kind of hoping I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. Visually, I think Carnage looks great. I really like how they've designed both Venom and Carnage. I know a lot of people weren't too big a fan of it. But it visually looks great. I think it's definitely improved on the last one. I think they've been a bit more adventurous with some of the action sequences as well. I think they've actually spent a bit more budget on this one, realising that there will be a lot of people interested in this story. The name Let There Be Carnage is just too much. Why can't you just call it Venom 2 or Venom 2 Carnage? That would have worked better for me. I'm not a big fan of the name. But actors-wise, I was really happy to see that Woody Harrelson is going to be in it as Carnage. I know it was a kind of after-credit scene, and thank God they've changed that wig. That was horrendous. But yeah, I think it should be a strong cast, but I just don't know. With it being Sony in a Marvel Sony film, I automatically want to think it's going to be negative.
I think they should have just called it Venom 2 Maximum Carnage, because Maximum Carnage, I think, is the name of one of the comics. It's short, simple. It also plays on the comic basis, and people go, "Oh yeah, but it's nothing like the comics." I'll just direct you back to Civil War. That was nowhere near like the comics there. It doesn't necessarily need to be. Like we know in Marvel products itself, it doesn't have to be like the comics, but it would be a lot more. For me personally, I think Maximum Carnage would be a better name for it.
Mm. Well, I think we're both in agreement that Venom is not going to be something we will probably be rushing to the cinema to see. I'll personally be waiting for the reviews to see what people say before I go spend my money. But I think it's going to be exactly what I did last time, in the fact that I will wait till it's released on DVD or appears on a streaming service unless I hear really good things via review copies. But I'd love to know other people's opinions as well. Happy Trigger is saying 10 out of 10 probably. So you think it's going to be a top film. So there we go. People have different opinions. People think that's going to look great. I'd love to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong. I want this to be a good Venom story. I love the Spider-Man comics and animations and the films, so to see Venom actually truly be put on screen correctly will be interesting. Now, moving on to another thing which I absolutely adore. I read the books. I loved the Lord of the Rings films. Let's not talk about the Hobbit films, but the Lord of the Ring films. But Amazon finally released our first preview image of the Lord of the Rings TV show, announcing that it'll be coming out in 2022. Now, they've spent a lot of money on this, and rightly so, because it has to look good, because people are automatically going to compare it to the films. Now, John, I don't know if you are a big fan of the Lord of the Rings films at all. What are your thoughts on this?
I absolutely love the Lord of the Rings films. Everything from the soundtrack to the casting, original casting. I'm referring to the casting of the films, obviously. It was perfect. I watched even the extended making of the films because it felt like home. The Lord of the Rings for me presents the films. Obviously, the book reading was one thing. Watching the films captures some of the magic of the books. It felt like being home when you're watching it. You feel at home, and then when Neville says goodbye at the end of the Return of the King, it's almost like you're saying bye on the last day of school, like you're saying bye to your friends. So that was a magical adventure, and I remember that in 2001 first come out all the way through to the Return of the King, and we're actually on 20 years since the first release. So. Of the first film, so it's quite ironic they're releasing all this. But yeah, it's such it's a wondrous adventure, and I love being along with it. The Hobbit, tried to recapture it. I saw what they tried to do. It could have been one film if they went by the book basis, but they tried to drag it out, add more Legolas in, which didn't need to be added in. So we've already had the presence of when they've tried to do something or replicate the feeling of something and it didn't quite work. That's my only concern, because I love the Lord of the Rings so much. I am quite concerned that Amazon won't capture the right tone. It's incredibly hard. Peter Jackson caught the magic perfectly the first time. I think it's just hard to replicate it.
And I think, obviously, a lot of people are disappointed with the Hobbit films. The Lord of the Rings kind of got it. So a lot of people are concerned on if Amazon are going to be able to get a hit series, because Amazon shows are kind of hit and miss at times. They've had some really good ones, like Jack Ryan, and that's it. That's all I can think of good Amazon shows. But it's going to be interesting because they are investing a lot of money and they're taking the time with this as well. But can they pull it off?
For me personally, I think it all depends, because I don't know much about. I've tried not to read into too much, because the more I read into it, the more I get concerned. But it all depends where they're pulling the stories from, because there's still the Silmarillion that exists out there that hasn't been on that I know Peter Jackson wanted to touch at one point, which has a huge amount of stories, but it's incredibly hard to understand and read. I think my biggest concern, as I say, is just what is the goal? Is the goal to create something new for a new sort of fandom and introduce it to the Lord of the Rings, or is it to replicate what Peter Jackson did back in 2001 with the first, with the Fellowship of the Ring all the way through to the Return of the King? It all depends. For me personally, I would try and venture a new route, not try to recapture it. But I feel like Amazon are going to try and recapture it. I don't know. I'm on the edge with it, and I'm a little bit concerned about it.
I'm the same. I want to absolutely love this show. I adore the films. Just like you, John, I watch the appendices. I've got the DVD box set. I've got the Blu-ray box set. And I was literally on Amazon the other day and I was looking, because now I've got a PlayStation 5 disc edition.
Okay.
Yes! I managed to get one. So I've managed to buy 2 PlayStation 5s. How many of you managed to get so far, John?
Anyway, so
I've got the disc edition, which means I can get the 4K Blu-ray edition of Lord of the Rings, but still £75, but has just come out. So I'm going to be a cheapskate, and I'm going to wait till it's a bit cheaper, because I've seen the films before, but I'm desperate to see it in 4K. But I want to love this TV show. I've got high expectations of this TV show, and fingers crossed it will be something that we'll be talking about, and probably talking about in this podcast. Fingers crossed. Yeah. But next thing, bit of news this week. Again, one of my favourite shows. I think is absolutely brilliant. I haven't actually spoke to John to see if he actually watches this show or not. But we had a teaser, and I'm not even calling it a trailer, it was just more of a teaser, showing previous clips and a few new clips of Stranger Things Series 4. John, have you watched Stranger Things at all?
This is where the confession comes out. I have sadly not watched any of the episodes. So,
Right, let's just take John off the podcast. There we go. He is
straight
blocked.
away.
You're just gonna have to look at my face. But no, just kidding. But you honestly, John, I think it's something you should watch. It is absolutely brilliant. I remember watching the first trailer and it just blown me away. I was literally posting on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, people, watch this show. And it did not disappoint me. I've already started getting the Netflix. I think you can hear my dog going off in the background there. Being a right little poop. I absolutely adore this show. The last season was all right. Had a few good bits, but this season is going to have a bigger storyline outside of the town of Hawkins. And it's going to be interesting to see how these characters have developed, because they started off as young kids, now starting to become like teenagers, and some of them becoming young adults. So watching the story of how these people grow up and the whole sci-fi, the horror side of it, I'm really, really excited for season 4, and it is rumoured that there will be a season 5, and season 5 will be the final one. But what I find very interesting, Stranger Things is breaking a Netflix trope, which is Netflix usually cancel a show by season 3. And I can't think of many shows that are lasting as long as Stranger Things. I might be wrong. But John, I will ask, what is it that has made you not want to watch Stranger Things yet?
It's not a case of not wanting. It's for me personally. Like, I have to wait for things to die down to watch them, because sometimes the hype can kill it for me. You know, when everyone talks, say, "Oh, it's an amazing, amazing, amazing," and you go in wanting it to be amazing, and it sometimes doesn't hit what you think is going to be. Therefore, you just completely. So for me, I wait a while before I watch certain things, just because of the hype. I only just recently watched, I think about 6 or 7 months ago, Community all the way through, and that was on Netflix, and that was an incredible series. So, yeah, for me, it's one of those. I'll definitely watch it because it does look interesting. It's a case of when. I'll probably wait until all the series comes out and then just watch them entirely.
No, your homework before season 4 is to watch them all. You've got nearly a year, so sort it out. We'll need to talk about it on the podcast. We will be talking about it on the podcast, so you don't have a choice in the matter. But one thing that they have done is they've split a lot of the major characters apart, and they've actually, in the teaser, they did not include 2 of the main characters. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I found it very... Well, actually, they didn't include 4 of the main characters, which...
How many main
in all of
characters
those
is there?
4 characters, there's a fair few. And those 4 characters are likely to be together. But they did show 11 who should have been with those 4 characters, but it wouldn't be Stranger Things if you didn't show 11 in some form. So they did do one little clip. But
That does seem a bit strange.
funny. Funny. Yeah, let's move on, because John hasn't seen it, so therefore his opinion does not matter at all. Something that was released this week, we got our first peek at the Hawkeye TV series, which is meant to be coming out in November. I've put this down on my little notes. November time. I want to say November 22nd. Please don't quote me on that. But November time, we will finally be getting the Hawkeye series, and Kate Bishop, I believe, is the character that is played by... Oh, what's her name? And it just went totally blank out of my head. Haley Steinfeld, I believe it is. I want to say that's what she's called. But yeah, that'll be coming out in November, which has a direct tie-in to the Black Widow film. I think we can talk about this now as well, because Yelena from Black Widow will be appearing in the Hawkeye series. I'm personally really looking forward to this. I love the character of Hawkeye, even if I don't like Jeremy Renner in person. But John, what are your thoughts on the Hawkeye series? Is this something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I don't mind Jeremy Renner. I think he's an interesting actor. Some of the roles he's played. I know there's a bit of controversy around it at the moment, but yeah, I don't know. This is one I'm on the fence about. Having watched Winter Soldier and the Falcon, these very big actiony type Disney Plus Marvel centric series, I find them to be very underwhelming. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, hugely underwhelming. But again, that could be because of reshoots or whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence with this. I'm a huge Arrow fan, so the guy, the pointy arrow guy with pink on the opposite side, never really appealed to me. Um, so but yeah, it could be interesting. I'm looking forward to Kate Bishop's character because I'm hoping this new. I'm excited for the potential of the new Avengers coming through. So that's one thing to be excited about, I guess. But yeah, I'm on the fence. It's sort of like how I was with the Venom there. I'm not hugely excited to see it, but I'm intrigued.
See, my worry is that this is going to be more Falcon and Winter Soldier style compared to the Loki and Wanda style. Now, I wasn't a big fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think a lot of people weren't as impressed with it as what they thought it would be. I'm hoping because of Falcon and Winter Soldier not living up to the hype, it will lower expectations for Hawkeye. But honestly, at this point, I see the TV shows as a way of introducing new characters into the movies, which I am happy for them to do, but I do actually want to watch the TV shows and really enjoy them. But I feel this is kind of like passing of the torch, Hawkeye passing it on to Kate, and then Kate being the Hawkeye that we see in the films, which I think is probably the right goal, because the actors that have been in the Avengers from the start aren't going to want to do this forever. So you've got Tom Hiddleston passing on the mantle to possibly Sylvie. You've got possibly Wanda passing her powers on to somebody else, like her kids. So this is kind of passing the mantle on, keeping the MCU going, which I think is needed. And before, John, I'll let you jump in. I just love the fact that you said the first introduction to Jeremy Renner was him in a Pink music video. Well, there we go. But John, what are your thoughts of the future of the MCU and using the TV shows as introductions to new characters?
Yeah, I do. There is a sense of passing the torch. I think I started off with Spider-Man: Far From Home, because obviously Tony passed on the torch to Peter, as we've seen. But we know there's Ms. Marvel coming into the mix now as well. There's obviously Captain Marvel's film called The Marvels, so that might be a passing of the torch straight there. We obviously know that. I can't remember her name now. She was in the Wonder Vision show. She got the powers, cosmic style powers. I can't remember her name now. I think it was Rambo, was it?
Yeah, Monica Rambeau.
Yeah, Monica Rambeau, that's it. So yeah, she obviously has adopted powers that probably could be quite similar to.
They haven't given her a superhero name yet, have they? I want to say Photon, but she's a mixture of a few different variations of her. That's the problem.
Yeah. See, for me, it all depends on which way they could go down the comic route, which will be Photon, obviously. But if it doesn't go that route, Marvel Cinematic doesn't necessarily follow its comic companion.
Well, because of the film she's in next, it's called The Marvels. So I think she's going to have some sort of Marvel in her name. But sorry,
yeah,
she
could be even Marvel. Yeah, no. She could even be Marvel, for example. Like categorically speaking, like Marvel originally in the comics was. I think what I can't remember his name now. I'm having a mind blank. The male counterpart that was in Captain Marvel, English actor who plays in Sherlock Holmes, and
Jude Law.
Me. That's the one. I love Jude. I love him as an actor as well. I couldn't remember his name then. So yeah, Jude Law was obviously supposed to be Marvel. So, and then it twisted and changed. So there's a number of ways they can do things, but there is a sense of this passing the torch thing. I do think Scarlet Witch, however, probably won't pass the torch as much, just because she's finally coming into her own. But we've gone from Vision to this new Vision as well, Black Widow to Yelena. So yeah, I get the sense that's the direction they're going to go, and I think we're going to get a completely new Avengers team, which will be utilizing. I think there's going to be a lot more females involved in this because we had a very male-centric Avengers team originally, so we're going to have a more female diverse Avengers. So it's probably keeping up with the times as well and introducing more icons for younger generation to idolize and enjoy and see the conflict in them and feel the association there. So I guess that's the way that Marvel wants to pave that road, and it's not necessarily a bad thing as well, because the most conflictive character we've always known for years is Spider-Man. So to see more and more, I think would be a great taste, really.
And I think a lot of people are agreeing. We've got Cosvlogs, Josh. Hey, dude. If I knew you were free, I could have got you on the podcast again. But saying that, he's looking forward to the Young Avengers as well. Nutty, I'm assuming, is also saying that they're looking forward to the Young Avengers. I think everybody is looking forward to the Young Avengers. But I will say this. I don't want to see young Loki. I just did nothing for me in the Loki TV series. Fair enough, he wasn't given that much to do. But even when you're not given much to do, I just got... just nothing from him. Unless they bring him back as a teenager, a bit older, with a different actor. I don't want to see young Loki, but let's see what happens with the future.
Crocodile Loki and Throg Thor. That's what I want to see. I think the world wants to see that. I mean, the Young Avengers, definitely want to see, but Throg and Crocodile Loki. Just we got to see that. I want to see
it's a TV show that everyone's asking for. And to be fair, who's to say we won't get that in the final thing I want to talk about today, because we're coming up to the last 10 minutes, and that is the TV series What If. Marvel are doing a second season of this and a possible third season, which means they will be listening to what fans are asking for, and they might be going, everybody's loving Crocodile Loki and Frog Thor. Who is to say that they aren't going to include them in the next season of the show What If, which comes out on Friday, so less than a week. Is it Friday? I want to say Friday. But yeah, coming out
on... It's the 11th, isn't it?
It is the 11th, which is that a Wednesday? 9th, 10th? That's a Wednesday. So it comes out on a Wednesday. They've moved Wednesdays, or the new Fridays, it seems. But yeah, What If is out on Wednesday. I think it's Captain Carter is the first episode. I could totally be wrong. But
I believe so, yeah.
I am so excited because this links into the multiverse. Nutty, I'm still waiting for my Howard the Duck film. There is a Howard the Duck film. There is. But maybe not what we want right now. It's not good if you've ever seen it. But What If? What are you really excited to see for What If, John, before I talk about my thoughts?
Got to be honest with you, the zombie storyline, that looks really good. So Hasbro have also released the toys as well for the What If story. So they've also given like brief description of what ones are. Am I allowed to discuss this? I mean, it's not really spoilers because Hasbro released the toys. So everyone was seeing Sorcerer Supreme Spider-Man, and I think everyone was trying to put a spin on it. But I think that ties into the zombie, because he's actually classed as Zombie Hunter Spider-Man. So that'll be intriguing. I'm looking forward to the zombie one. Captain Carter, a little bit. I think Hayley Atwell's been long overdue to come back to the Marvel in some way, but I think it's a great opportunity, this What If series, to see so many different things that we want to see and not had the opportunity. I think one of the things they need to do for What If, and this is just me spitballing, is the returning of the stones from after Endgame. Everybody's been wanting to see it for ages, and I think it's an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And just to go through the chat as well, because I always like to get audience interaction. I'm saying that, but we've never done it before. But Cosvlogs is saying, I believe with Young Avengers we have Billy and Tommy from WandaVision, Kate Bishop, which we'll see in Hawkeye, Patriot, who we saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We will get a new Falcon as well. Because the army lad who took Falcon's wings, it could be a young version of Falcon. Iron Lad, most likely Kid Loki, I hope not, and Cassie Lang, Scott Lang's daughter.
I do think Iron Lad is going to be replaced with Iron Heart, the female. I believe that's already been discussed already, so I think that's who's going to be replacing Iron Man officially. And
we'll have Miss Marvel as well, because that TV show will be coming out. But the future of Marvel is looking really interesting. But what I love about What If, to kind of bring it back to this kind of segment, is we can see the stories that they wouldn't necessarily make films of, but they can still tell stories. Now, personally, I'd love to see a live-action zombie Marvel film, but it just wouldn't work in what the story that they are telling. But as an animated short that people can see as separate to everything, it works perfectly. And to be fair, it kind of helps the comic creators and the kind of, remember, this is all from comics. It kind of brings us back to its roots of being the comics, in a sense.
I think it's a way of promoting the original comics, yeah. I think it's definitely because, as you say, like, the thing with animation is you can capture the style of the comic as well. So, like, for example, if I'm going to take Dragon Ball, for example, they did with the latest Broly film. They captured some of the art style of some of the original comics, some of the original manga, sorry. And I guess this is an opportunity to do that, is capture some of the art styles that, previous predecessors have stylized in the original comics versions. So it's an opportunity there. I will say one of the things about this What If series, which will be magical, is we're going to hear for the last time in his last chance role. It's obviously his last role before he sadly departed, was Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, and obviously the Star-Lord T'Challa. So that will be an absolute magical episode. And I think it's one I'm not looking forward to, not because I don't think it'd be great, because it's going to be a bit emotionally overwhelming to know that's the last time we'll ever hear him or see him in the T'Challa role, which is unfortunate, sadly.
Oh, I'm muted. What's going on?
I was like, oh, I can't hit Chris.
You should have said. It's because I took a drink and I didn't want to talk. Yeah, I was saying that it'd be great to have Chadwick Boseman back for What If, and it'd be nice to have some sort of reference to him in Wakanda Forever, and I believe that comes out in the back end of 2022. Can't predict because things change so much. But I think What If is a great opportunity to tell the stories, give some of the smaller characters an opportunity to kind of shine and tell some stories that we wouldn't usually have. And we are coming up to the end of the hour, but I like to keep these kind of short and sweet. John, do you have anything you would like to add before we finish the podcast for today?
No, I think we'll probably do, we've said before, a podcast on Marvel and DC, what works for Marvel, what doesn't work for DC, and probably do some streaming later on.
Yeah, we'll probably jump on and play some Fall Guys, maybe just after 8 at some point tonight as well. If you listen to the audio version or watching this back, we usually play games most weeknights just after 8, around 8:30. If you ever want to come watch and laugh, we'll be playing Fall Guys tonight on Sunday the 8th of August. That's BST, and we've become addicted to this game. It's great. But I'm looking forward to What If. We will be back next Sunday, where we will be talking about What If, the new series. So we'll try and get a guest on at some point as well. So they can share their thoughts rather than just ours as well. So look forward to that. I don't think there's much else being released next week, but you just never know what trailers. Who knows? We might finally get the Far From Home trailer.
There is something that we do need to talk about, especially coming up to its final, is the Bad Batch, Star Wars Bad Batch. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Don't watch it, don't care. But no, what we'll do is possibly is when that's coming up towards the finale, we'll try and get someone in who has watched it with you, like the same as you, so that you can have a bit of a discussion. So John, if you can think of someone who watches it or who you've talked to about it, we can definitely sort that out and talk about Bad Batch. We'll talk about What If. And anybody watching or listening, if there's certain things you want us to talk about, please let me know. We love talking about TV, movies, and I love talking about games and tech, which I love throwing in as well. We did a whole stream on just Elgato products the other day. But it's like stuff that really helps with streaming. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will end the podcast here. But yeah, John, just in case people want to find you, even though I'm putting it on screen, where can we find you on social media?
Yep, Multiverse Geek Man is pretty much the universal name for me. So I'm now on Twitch officially. I'm now reinvesting in my YouTube, so by all means, go ahead and follow both of those, and Instagram and Facebook, Multiverse Geek Man.
Awesome. And if you want to find me, you can find my personal social. Everything is CJ the Geek. just saying. But also don't forget to check out SpoilerTV, where we have all of the latest news, promos. The YouTube has all the trailers and promos and everything like that as well for the latest TV shows and movies. But yeah, thanks for watching. We will see you in about an hour and a half on my Twitch, which is CG the Geek, playing some Fall Guys. Otherwise, we will see you next week for the next podcast. Bye for now, guys.